Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Alicia and I'm the owner of Alicia Be Creative. Today's video is going to be a review of the WeCreat Lumos. This is a brand new machine and it's said that it can do some pretty amazing things. So we're going to be putting that to the test today. So WeCreat was nice enough to send me their WeCreat Lumos to try out and test out for you guys. So although this was sent to me for free, all the opinions and everything that I share in today's video, as well as my own review, those opinions are all my own. So we will be putting this to the test because this is not only a 10-watt diode laser, but it also has a 3-watt infrared laser as well, which is great for those smaller engraved items like on metals and things. So we're going to be testing those things out today, showing you guys a few ways that you can utilize this machine, and of course my thoughts of it. So of course, all of the items that I use today, including the WeCreat Lumos, will be linked in the description box of this video. So check that out for all of the items that I use today. Additionally, if you have questions about the WeCreat Lumos, maybe I don't show something in today's video and you have that burning question you'd like me to test out, definitely leave that down in the comment section. I'd love to do additional videos to show you guys other ways that you can utilize this machine, or test out some of you guys' thoughts from the comment section. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into today's video. Okay, so we have the cords and attachments. We also have a couple of screwdrivers here. This is so that you can convert it for those of us that are Mac users. They also sent you some materials. We're going to be using these today to test some materials using the WeCreat Lumos. Of course, you get your tubing, which is for venting out of your space or using the fume extractor. You additionally, of course, get the machine. Now this piece on top comes completely out, which is actually really very cool because it means you can like engrave and laser on things that are different. You don't have to keep like it in the laser bed. This opens up, and in here we have like this plate here, which is where you put your items. These little doohickeys here, those are for keeping your pieces centered and such, to keep whatever you're going to engrave on or cut on, keeping that centered. This would be for, I've seen people use this for doing pens, but this also helps to hold pieces of wood up if you're going to be cutting them, so it doesn't obviously engrave or cut into the bed of this laser here. Now WeCreat also sent me a couple additional features that don't necessarily come if you're just getting the actual WeCreat Lumos. They sent me their rotary tool. They also sent me this piece, which attaches to that top part of the laser. And that is so that you can engrave on other items. So like a box or something that wouldn't quite fit in the bed, you could use this to protect obviously your eyes from the laser, and you can engrave onto, say, the wall, say a box or something larger, without needing to do anything but attach the laser part. And then this piece right here, this is the largest piece here. This is for the slide feature. So if you wanted to engrave on multiple items, maybe coasters or something that's just a larger project, you'd use this to be able to feed this through on the laser. That way your items kind of move, left to right or whatever, and it engraves on all of the substrate that you have on your bed here. So those are all of the items that WeCreat sent, and then I have, let's go ahead and put this together and let's start testing. Okay, so we are going to be putting this together. Now, again, this is the WeCreat Lumos. And so the setup process for this was actually very simple. There were only a few things that I needed to do to set up. And the first thing was to install the tubing so that I could vent this out of my space. Now, I already have the WeCreat Vista, so I do have the air purifier. So I just attached my hose or tubing to that existing air purifier so that I could, you know, vent out of my space. You could also vent this out a window if you don't have, if you don't choose to purchase, I should say, an air purifier to go with this. But aside from putting the tubing on for vent purposes, I also only needed to plug in the power cords, hook up the USB, and then honestly, this was ready to go and ready to be powered on. There was very few things that I needed to do for setup, much less than the setup process when I unboxed the WeCreat Vista, which is why this is a little bit sort of shorter and not really super in depth, because there isn't really a lot that you actually need to do with this. So I love that this is tabletop ready. Now, I've never worked with a smaller laser. The extent of my laser experience really is my WeCreat Vista, but I'm interested to see how well this works and how much I gravitate towards this versus using my WeCreat Vista in the future as I work on different laser projects. But all in all, what I do love is how compact this is, and I already had some thoughts and ideas on how I might be able to bring this with me when I do different craft shows and things like that, to be able to do on the spot engraving and such, especially because this is really kind of, although it is, you know, a pretty decently weighted machine, it definitely would be much easier to tote around than my WeCreat Vista or some of the other machines that I have in my craft room and space. So all in all, I really the setup process was super simple. It does, of course, come with directions in it. But again, there was only like a few things you really needed to like put together. So like for me, the directions were not necessary, which is great because I love a machine that you can just take out of the box and like figure out quickly and not really have to like do too much work to it, which was definitely this. Now, some of the features that this WeCreat Lumos is said to be able to do, it is said to be 3 times faster than any machine of its stature on the market. And we are definitely going to put that speed to the test today. It also can engrave in color. Now, I'm not getting into that in this video, but I will be doing a few other videos just showing some of the other features of this, but I did want to mention this. It also does 2 times deeper engraving. Now, I'm not one who has done a whole lot of engraving other than on cups, but we are definitely going to look at how well this engraves on metals, which I'm very excited to test out in this video. And then the resolution for this video is pretty crisp and clear, which is really interesting and kind of cool. So we're going to be obviously taking a little bit of an up close look at all of this, but I kind of want to mention those things before we get into the bulk of the video. So now that this is completely set up, I just wanted to show you a couple of those features. Again, that bed for when you're lasering or cutting items. The button is directly on top of this. And then something else is kind of cool is that you can actually do like a manual autofocus with this. So this knob in the back moves the laser up and down. So if you wanted to, instead of using the autofocus feature that comes in the WeCreat Make It software, you could actually manually focus this if you wanted to. So we're going to head over to the WeCreat Make It software. Now, I already have this on my computer, but it does give you steps on how to, of course, get this downloaded onto your computer. But of course, I have this because I have already been using the WeCreat Vista. So I didn't need to do anything additional other than hook up the USB to my computer so that it would read the WeCreat Lumos over the Vista and create this sort of background field here, which is a smaller viewpoint than you would see using the WeCreat Vista. Now, the Make It software has a lot of different features within it. It has a lot of already existing SVGs and different features, very similar to what I would say like Cricut has in their, Make It software, their Cricut Design Space software. So I'm not going to go into too much depth here on the WeCreat Make It software. I do feel like it's very user-friendly. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of crazy things. And now again, like I'm not like this huge lasering queen by any means, but I hope to one day be that person. But I would say that is very easy to use and user-friendly. So we're going to go ahead and start right off the bat, and we're just going to test out some wood. So you'll notice that up in the right-hand corner, there is both a red light and blue light option. We're using the blue light option, and that means that we are using the 10-watt diode laser part of this. Now remember, this is a 2-in-1 laser. You're getting the 10-watt diode, and you are also getting the red light, which is the 3-watt infrared laser. So we're going to just start with just some traditional 10-watt things here. So we're going to just get a shape, and I'm going to just do a line engrave and a fill engrave first, and then I'll show you the cutting feature as well. So I'm just going to duplicate my diamond. The first diamond is set to be line engrave, and the second one I'm going to go to the right hand side and click fill engrave. I then am going to click on sort of the test array that is down here since we are using basswood, and I'm going to select an engraving that I like. So I'm going to kind of choose one of the darker engravings to really kind of put this to the test and see how well it does this. So this is only going to take 10 seconds to do, and I was kind of like already like, wow, that's like super quick. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be that fast, but I promise you it is that fast. So now we're kind of going over to my laser. Now I've already refreshed this and you can see the wood and where I've lined everything up, but I did put the wood in the bed of the laser, and that rectangle that is like lit up, that is actually the like framing feature. So it's called the rectangle framing, and that will show you exactly where your item or where whatever you're trying to engrave or cut, where it's going to show up on your substrate, which I think is so cool because different from the WeCreat Vista, you only get framing and the laser just moves to show you where things are going to be, which can get a little bit tricky to really like line things up. And so this for me is like so cool to really be able to see exactly where this is going to place whatever I'm putting on my substrate, like exactly where it's going to show up. So again, 10 seconds to do the line engrave and the fill engrave. Now, of course, these are not super big, but still that is really fast. So we're going to put this back into the laser bed, and now I want to test out the cutting feature. So we're going to hop back over to the WeCreat Make It software, and I am just going to use that first diamond there, and I'm just going to change it to cut. The other thing I will mention is I'm not changing any of the settings that are recommended in here. All of the settings that we are using today are the ones that are recommended by the WeCreat Make It software. I'm not playing with any of the settings. I'm not doing a test array to test certain things. Like I am literally just using what the suggestions are here to see how well this laser works on the different things that they sent me to test out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to cut a diamond. Now, here is where things got a little bit weird and things got a little bit crazy. So again, this was supposed to be a super quick cut. And I went ahead and I started to do this cut of this diamond. And you're going to see me flip over to the bed here. And I go ahead and do everything I normally do. Again, I changed none of the settings. Zero, zilch, none of the settings whatsoever. Now, because we're going to be cutting this, I am going to put the little raised tray in here so that, of course, it doesn't cut through the wood onto the bed of the laser. And so this is to keep that piece of wood propped up so that we can cut it. So when I went to cut this, something interesting happened, which I actually have never had happen. But when I went to cut this piece, my laser actually caught fire. So the wood just caught fire. So honestly, a little like alarming for me. And it stopped the cut. So the first diamond, it like automatically stopped the cut and I had to try and run it again. And all it did was like burn the wood. And so I thought that was so odd because I didn't, again, like this is what they sent me. And so I was like, what is happening? So I tried it a second time. And once again, like I caught a little bit of a flame and I was like, what is happening? Now this is set up to my air purifier. Again, not changing the settings in the software whatsoever. So I wasn't sure if I was just experiencing a weird glitch or whatever was happening, but your girl caught a little bit of fire, which was a little bit nerve-wracking. I always have, a fire extinguisher on deck, but I do not want to have to use that. So what I ended up doing was I turned off the laser, turned it back on, exited out of the WeCreat software, turned it back on, and went back in, did the same thing, didn't change any of the settings, and the third time it cut perfectly. So I don't know if I was just experiencing a weird glitch or what was going on, but I finally figured it out and I didn't have to change any of the settings whatsoever, and it did finally cut using the blue light laser. So I probably will never know why it did what it did, but maybe it just needed to warm up a little bit. I was firing at full power and it was like, girl, I gotta chill out a little bit. So now we're gonna move on to test some other items. Now, WeCreat sent like a box of different items to like your test materials and things like that. And that's what I'm pulling from. I definitely will be using some of my own materials moving forward, but I did want to use some of these materials to kind of test, because as I'm getting to try and figure out what the WeCreat Lumos can do, I definitely want to, you know, stretch and use the items that were provided to me and kind of see how well this engraves on different things. So we are going to be engraving on an aluminum business card, and what you'll notice on my screen here is I've switched it to the red light, but I forgot to change the material and it had been set to stainless steel, which is not what the aluminum business card is. And so we're gonna run this through after I get this placed. So I've already placed this on the bed, and you're gonna watch me do that in the next clip. But I've already placed this on the bed where I want it to line up. I just did my name for the sake of this. And again, this was going to be a pretty quick print here. I am going to do that rectangle framing, and I have been doing that every time because that really just makes sure that this is going to get lined up where I want it to be lined up. And we're going to go ahead and engrave this. So I am going to add those little, I keep calling them doohickeys. That's not what they're called. I can't recall what they're called, but these help you keep your item kind of placed and centered so it doesn't move across the bed. You don't necessarily need to. I use two for this, but then when I do the other pieces, I really only use one. And that's really just to be like, something to keep it up against so that it's not kind of all over your laser, and it makes it much easier when you have it there to like get things lined up. So we're going to go ahead and start this. And again, remember, I've switched to the red light laser, which is the 3-watt infrared laser, but when I didn't change my material, so this is really on the stainless steel setting. So you're going to notice that when this comes out, it doesn't really look super impressive. And I was initially a little bit bummed. I was like, wow, this really doesn't look too great. Like, I'm a little bit surprised that this isn't cutting better, especially because this is such a thin piece of metal. Like, this isn't engraving better as it being such a thin piece of metal. Then going back and looking at my Make It software and realizing that I did not change it to aluminum, I was like, oh, well, that's why. So I ended up going back in, switching it to the correct material and running this through again to kind of see how, again, it engraves on something that's aluminum. Now, aluminum is super thin, really honestly easy, malleable to use. So we're going to go ahead and run this through one more time, and you're definitely going to see a remarkable difference from that stainless steel setting to that aluminum setting. So definitely way more impressed the second time around when I had made sure it was on the correct setting versus the first time. And that is hands down 1,000% better than the initial engraving, which was set to the wrong material. So just a reminder that you do want to make sure that you're double checking. That way you're not wasting materials. And so I like that I'm able to like test these different features out with just like, I don't want to say throwaway materials, because you definitely can still utilize a lot of these materials, but things that I'm not then going out and buying a bunch of, starting to engrave on or work on, and then realizing that I don't have my settings correctly. So it kind of was nice to be able to like test out things and see the different features and the different like items that this can engrave on, to really be able to decide like, okay, what are things that I'm going to want to engrave on, and what is engravable really well on, so that I can really choose what I want to be able to use the WeCreat Lumos for. So I wanted to put this to an additional test here. So I flipped this business card over and I did a more detailed print. I just literally pulled an image from the WeCreat Make It software. I just wanted to see how quick this was. And this was done literally in 30 seconds flat. So you're watching the full clip here of me engraving on this, and it just was like a flower type situation here, but it engraved so crisp, like so quickly. I really was kind of blown away. I did not expect this to be so quick. So moving right along, in the box, they also sent like this little heart-shaped pendant, which is stainless steel. And so I'm going to kind of move out of the WeCreat Make It software. I did find that the software was moving slow on the first night that I started to work with this. Now, I'm not sure if that was the software or if that was my internet or what was happening, because I've been having some crazy internet issues lately. But things seemed to be okay that night, but it was moving so slow when I was trying to refresh my screen so I could see the bed of the laser. I did have much better success when I was starting to do this pendant on day 2. But I did note that the first day, and because I'm not in this software all the time, I wasn't sure if it was a me thing or if it was a software thing. Now, obviously it's a web-based software, so of course you're going to run into glitches every once in a while. So that's also something to keep in mind as well, that, you know, sometimes the software does seem to be a little bit slow. You can also use the WeCreate any of the WeCreate products with Lightburn, but I'm not super familiar with Lightburn, which is why I have been using the WeCreate Make It software. So I did just a little bee on this cute little pendant for my last name because I thought it was too cute. And I did the stainless steel setting. Again, I changed none of the settings other than changing the material. That was all that I did for this. And this came out so adorable. And now I'm like kind of into wanting to like engrave on jewelry and things, which I didn't think I'd ever want to do, but I just feel like that is just too adorable. So I also wanted to do this little leather pouch, which to me came out okay. I did use the leather setting, but I think maybe I needed to switch the style of it, because it didn't really come out as like engraved. Like you can read it, but it wasn't as impressive as some of the other pieces. Now, again, these are all the pieces. These are all the test materials that I got from WeCreat. I haven't used any of my own materials because I wanted to just see how it performs with the materials that were sent. So I went back and just created like a little like pocket trinket, I guess you could call it, in the software, which is just a little cutout heart that says "Just Breathe," just like a little, you know, like a little pocket keepsake, you know, something to keep in your pocket as a reminder. So that was kind of all I decided to test. Now, of course, there are so many other things that you can do with this WeCreat Lumos, and I am so excited to be like putting this to the test. But I wanted to just start with like this introduction video, just showing you some of the things that you can do with this machine, and hopefully that will inspire you guys to maybe ask some questions in the comments and really get my brain kind of going so I can show you guys some additional things. Now, of course, we did not get to use any of the additional items that were sent to me by WeCreat. Those, I promise, will be coming in future tutorials, but I wanted to just stick with the basics here so you guys really could see how fast this machine is, number one, how compact it is, and how easy it is to work with. Of course, if you have any comments from me, any questions, put those down in the comment section down below, and I can't wait to make some future tutorials featuring the WeCreat Lumos. See you guys again in the next one. Bye!